Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. On today's video, I will be reviewing a San Martin. This is the SN021G B3 or the BB36 homage. Now they have made a few improvements over the previous SN021 which are reviewed on this channel. Now as you're well aware, when San Martin made this Explorer homage, they did cause a lot of fuss. There was a huge hype behind it. They made a few different dials, a few different font combinations, just loads of variants out there, basically gauging what people want. Now since they haven't reduced on those variants. They've actually made a lot more versions, and even this BB36 with those snowflake style hands, they've actually got some more versions in them. They've also gone for these really catchy colors now. As you can see in front of me, I've got the Tiffany blue dial. So they have made a few changes over the last one that I looked at. In my opinion, I believe the last version, the SN021, was a bit overhyped. They used that matte black dial, which was kind of chalky in color. Yeah, I wasn't much of a fan, and the Lume was a bit poor, and they also had the 2-level micro adjust. So I felt that particular model was kind of overpriced and overhyped. Now, what about this model? So I think the changes they've made have definitely improved this watch. In fact, as soon as I took it out the box, it did jump out at me. Lifting the watch out of the box, just instantly something in hand felt a lot better. So let's get on with the review. Let me give you an overview of the specifications and dimensions with this SN021G B3 and some of the changes they have made. So in terms of specifications, nothing has really changed. This is still 316L stainless steel construction across the whole case, bracelet, bezel, crown and case back. And the watch still comes with two different movements. You've got the Chinese PT5000, which is what is in this watch, which comes for around £255. And you also have the Swiss Sellita SW200 for just £100 more at £355. The price is pretty significant, but as we know from San Martin, it is easily justifiable for the most part. Now, one of the changes they have made is they've introduced this box style sapphire crystal, which I absolutely love. Gives the watch a really well-rounded shape, and I think this box sapphire crystal on these cases just look the part. Now, I think the bezel is also slightly slimmer. I could be wrong, but it does look slimmer to me on this model. And they also have changed the clasp to the one with the 4-link micro adjust. So it's the one that people want. Now, in terms of water resistance, that remains the same at 100 meters, but you do have a screw down crown and also a screw down case back. Now, in terms of dimensions, 37mm case. The bezel measures in around 36mm. You do have an 11mm depth, a lug to lug of 45.5mm, an overall weight of 130 grams with the full bracelet complete, and a crown size of 6mm in diameter with a depth of around 2.5mm. The crown on these watches, for me, it is way too small. It makes it quite fiddly, and especially wearing gloves throughout this review, it does make the crown almost unusable. But the crown has to be this size in order for it to be proportionate to the case. I fully understand that. So once you do kind of set the time and get over the awkwardness of screwing the crown in, yeah, then you're good to go. But as you can see, I will struggle with these gloves on. But I have to say, I do also find the crown slightly gritty when you're trying to engage. It should be a lot smoother than that, especially for the price San Martin want. Now, in terms of the dial construction, they are pretty similar amongst all the different variants. You've got a mixture of applied and printed features. I think it was only the first one, the SN021, which had the printed dial hour markers, which I wasn't really a fan of. But these ones, yes, you've got your sub-style hour markers, you've got the triangles, the circles and the batons at the 6 and 9. This of course is a no date version. Being San Martin, everything is perfectly applied. You've got the polished hour markers, impeccable finishing as always. On this version, you also have the applied San Martin hex logo below the 12. On the newer versions, it is a printed logo, and I don't know why they would print that logo when, for me anyway, on this style, the applied logo gives it a more value add feature because it is an emblem that has to be applied to the dial, therefore making it slightly more expensive. Now, the printed text is just above the 6 in black, automatic, and giving you the water resistance rating. You've got the snowflake style hands. Personally, I do not like the snowflake style hands, but you know, there are a lot of people that do. And of course, this is homaging the BB36. The hands themselves are really nicely finished, highly polished, of course. There's no defects present, really well done. And that second hand also fully polished. And they do have decent proportions, great length to the second and the minute hand. Now, the bezel is fully polished. Again, free from any imperfections, and so is the case finish. You've got a fully polished side profile, on either side, and you've got this super fine satinized brushing. Now this is something which does definitely stand out on pretty much most of the newer San Martin models. Their finishing game has definitely been stepped up. They definitely do stand out amongst the rest, especially on AliExpress, and they can compete with some really high-end micro brands, in my opinion, especially just on the finishing. Now the bracelet, thankfully they did have female end links in the previous one, and they've stuck to those. It just absolutely makes sense. It keeps that lug to lug really compact, and of course that will translate across to the way it wears on your wrist. Now the one thing I do want to look at is the lume. As I said, I was appalled by the lume on the previous model. At £250, it doesn't matter if it's a dive watch or a explorer, climbing, field watch. I think the lume should definitely be at a really good level, and I am pleased to say they definitely have improved on the lume. As you can see, it is burning really bright. You've got BG9 application to the hands and the dial. Now in comparison to the old one, this is much better. There's more than enough layering present on the dial. If anything, the handset is just slightly less than the hour markers on the dial, but you really can't tell the difference. And this is without any direct UV exposure and just from the lighting in the room. So I'm really pleased with that. I'm pleased to say San Martin have delivered on the lume section. The bracelet is of a very high quality. The edges of the bracelet are not sharp anymore. They used to be edgy on the previous models, especially the sub homage, but on the new models you'll see the edge has been finished really well. Feels smooth in hand. The brushing on the bracelet of course is satinized, solid end link, solid links bracelet, screw-in links. So a really nice clasp as well. As mentioned earlier, they've gone for a 4 micro adjust clasp, which I think the 2 was insufficient and the 6 is excessive. So this is that mid-range clasp that they do, and I think this is perfect. San Martin logo, really nicely applied. Impeccable finishing. I do love about San Martin, the finishing is present all over the watch. Even the clasp, you got such great details, really smooth finishing, and it just makes the watch really pop. So through and through, exceptionally well made. Of course, the case back is still sterile. I think the only thing that remains is to put this watch on wrist and see how it looks. Now, before I do that, let me give you guys a look at the wrist check. This is a project which I actually just completed today. It's the Proxima Samurai homage in stainless steel, and I ended up modifying it with a Gen 1 monster dial using the hands that came with the Proxima, and used another aftermarket seconds hand. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm actually really pleased with this. Gives it a really nice tool-like dive watch look. It's not as out there as it was when Proxima made it, I'd definitely say that. Here we have the San Martin SN021B B3 on my 6.5 inch wrist. Now, even with the older model, I think the fit on this watch is really good. I think it's a good proportion to the wrist size especially, and it does look good. It sits really well. It is very comfortable. I really like that box style sapphire crystal. I think that finished up the watch just perfectly. And yeah, it's a good all-round watch, very light on wrist as well. And that Tiffany blue does definitely pop, but you've got so many other color variants on there. So in terms of summarizing, you guys know what's good, you guys know what's bad. They have definitely improved on the previous one. The problems that I had previously, they don't have on this watch. The lume is exceptional, really good. The finishing has always been immaculate. I'm not a fan of this BB style handset, but of course with the amount of variants, I can choose the other handsets if I want. Definitely a good watch. £255. It is high for AliExpress, everyone will tell you that, but they do have quite a lot of orders. If you do spend that much, you will get something that is amazingly well done. And if you compare it to micro brands, it is so difficult to get a micro brand with this level of quality and finish for the price that San Martin are offering this at. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you on the next video. Don't forget to check out my eBay store. I have left a link within the description. Anything from brand new watches to used watches to a whole host of accessories, including straps, leather, silicone, you name it, all very reasonably priced. If you do want to reach out to me for something specific, then contact me on my email address, which again is within the description. Thank you once again, guys. Your support means everything.